He hasn't played since November 11th, 2023. Needed major surgery to resurface his hip. And now John Klingberg is an Edmonton Oiler. To speak to that, here's Ryan Rishaug. Rishaug, realistically, what can Klingberg bring to the Oilers given he hasn't played in over 14 months?
Yes, TBD, Gino. It's all to be determined, right? So there have been mixed results with this surgery. Different players have had different results. Let's say he has, a Patrick Kane style result where the resurfacing goes well and he regains some of what had been lost. Let's say that's the reality, that from a health standpoint, he's made some significant improvement. Well, how much game is left? People that watched him play in Toronto when he was dealing with it all, obviously not a big fan of the game that is there. But at one point, this was a defenseman who had $50+ million on the table for him. He knows how to be a good defenseman in this league. He knows what it takes. He's also watched his career flash before his eyes. So in Edmonton, he's got an opportunity to potentially win. He's got an opportunity to potentially contribute. And that all means an opportunity to potentially get another contract on the table and prolong his NHL career. So TBD, Gino, let's see how healthy he is and what he's got left in the tank.
TBD is fair enough, but Rishaug, what is the starting point? Where do you see John Klingberg on the Oilers' D depth chart coming in?
Yeah, so keep this in mind. Right now, the Oilers, and by the way, top 10 in the league in terms of goals against per game. They've done a nice job defensively. Right now, they're choosing between Josh Brown or Troy Stecher in their lineup every single night. So the chances, what are the chances that John Klingberg can come in and, get a little bit of traction, get going, and perform better than either of those players, right? Brown is limited. He's a big, tough customer, right? Honest player, but the puck moving leaves a little bit to be desired. Stetcher's a much smaller player. As the games get heavy, he's scrappy, but definitely gets moved out of games at times. So I think there's a window here if Klingberg finds his game to potentially push for an every night spot in the lineup. Now, that's likely on a third pairing. The Oilers have options on the right side because Ty Emberson has worked out great so far this season, but there is a window there for him to come in and be an everyday guy if he can outplay Stecher and Josh Brown. But the big question that this leads to, Gino, is if Klingberg comes in and plays well, what does that do for the Oilers' trade deadline expectations, right? Is it a mistake if Klingberg looks good in the first 2-3 weeks for the Oilers to go, well, maybe you don't need to spend $4 or $5 million on a top four defenseman, right? I think they need to be careful with that. I think this is a Stanley Cup window they're in. I don't think this can prevent them from going and getting an impact player at the deadline. I think there should be caution there in reading too much into what Klingberg does in the early going.
It's funny because that's exactly what I was going to ask you. Does this mean they don't have to keep looking? Because we all knew they were trying to bolster their blue line. So, assuming they're going to wait and see how he works out before making a decision about the deadline, I can't help but think that the Oilers are doing a great job on their bench in terms of coaching up guys. They're getting more out of this current blue line than you would think they could.
Yeah, great point, Gino. And I think since they made the coaching change last year, listen, the players get the credit. When the players play well, they get credit, and that's the way it has to be. But you cannot ignore the results that this coaching staff, between Mark Stewart and Paul Coffey on the blue line, and then, of course, Chris Knobloch as the head coach. So Evan Bouchard, the best hockey he's ever played in his life was the back half of last season, in particular after the coaching change and in the playoffs. He absolutely hit a new level. Vinny Darren, right, who we're seeing struggle. When he was here for this staff, his game was in a much different place. Some of the best hockey of his career. Ty Emberson was brought in. Not really sure what to expect. 40 games or so of NHL experience. They have done a really nice job of slowly bringing him along. He's eyeing a second pairing spot on the right side. Like he's really progressed. The point, like Darnell Nurse is playing some of the best hockey he's played in the last, 3+ years. Brett Kulak, absolutely blossoming. Already hit a career high in goals just last night by scoring. The point is I think this coaching staff should have some confidence. They are able to get a lot out of players. There are not many players that have come here on the blue line and wilted and not found success. So if Klingberg is healthy and if he's still got some game, I would give this staff the benefit of the doubt that if there's something to be squeezed, they will find a way to squeeze it, Gino.
There are a number of teams, including the Toronto Maple Leafs, who are looking at Klingberg potentially to bring him in. So now he's an Oiler. And as you mentioned, Ryan, it's TBD to see how this all works out.